Good evening and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Pride Rules episode 94. Couple more weeks, Omar. Just a couple more weeks, buddy.
It's so close. Triple digits.
Yes. It's very exciting. You know, the year was exciting, but 100 episodes is a pretty good milestone. And this show, for almost 100 episodes, has been proudly sponsored by ADK Fightwear, Black Hole Jiu-Jitsu, Madama Jiu-Jitsu, 2-Minute Warning Sports 360, and our new family over there at Fightbook MMA. As always, I am your host, the Reverend Tommy D. Joined with me tonight, he's back, folks. The professor is back. El Profesor Omar Sangarima. Man, we missed you last week, buddy. It was a good show.
It's late, though. It was too late. I'm too old, man.
It was very late. It was very late, but hey, you gotta cater to the guests, and it was a lot of fun having Romero Cotton on, talking some ADK stories, you know, in there in the room training with Khabib and Daniel Cormier and, you know, Luke Rockhold. I couldn't make any Luke Rockhold jokes because the man was on the show. You know, I couldn't. You can't.
You know how much you love Luke Rockhold. That's for sure. Oh, boy. You love that, man.
It just shows that we respect our guests. Hey, let's talk about somebody else that I love before we get into any of this. Angela Magana gets Von Flue choked in Ryzen. I mean, it's amazing. A year ago, she's sitting there saying, oh, I'm going to get paid more money for lesser competition. So basically what she just showed the world, that lesser competition kicked her ass. Omar, I know you posted it. You had me in mind when you did it.
100%.
Do you think it's time for her to just pack it in, maybe stick to Muay Thai fights, and that's it?
No, not at all. Because the I think it was Middle Easy, right? Where I posted it from. They had very great points, and they were going, listen, she's doing what they pay her to do in a promotion like Ryzen. You come, you hype the fight. You talk all sorts of trash on social. She's very good at manipulating social. We all know that. And, you know, not exactly lay down for the hometown hero, but Paula Magana. She's not. If I thought she was more skilled, I would have a couple of suspicions about her throwing fights, but I just think she kind of sucks. So it's perfect. She has enough of a profile that she gets eyeballs on a card that really didn't have any other, like, freak show type situations. You know, they had Muay Thai fights. I like that. It was a good mix. She did what she gets paid for. And the article went on to say, hey, we wouldn't be surprised if she came back at least one more time. So I could definitely see that.
But that's a 7-fight losing streak. I mean, you eventually
Bob
get
Sapp, right?
lucky.
Bro, Bob Sapp.
Get lucky.
I get that. But Bob Sapp had a hit record in Japan, bro.
Bob Sapp is also a giant human being, and that's what they like over there. Angela Magana is just a fuckstick. There's a big difference.
I mean, they could use some more over there as well. Japanese population is one of an industrialized nation. I think it's going in the wrong direction. They're not having enough babies to keep the island populated. So maybe they need more Maganas in the world to go there and start some home fires.
But wouldn't you want your baby's mama to be somewhat talented?
I wouldn't want my baby's mama to Von Flue choke herself. There's a lot of things. It could even be a Republican in my house before you could turn around and be like, yeah, you know, I got Von Flue choke today. Like, that for me is, you know, get a stick, wrap your stuff around the end of it, and go ride the rails and get out of here and write folk songs, because we don't have any losers in this household. That's horrible, man. All you got to do is just stop being stupid with the Von Flue. I know once it's set up, it's a bit of a situation, but what are you doing throwing your arm over? It's one of those things. we talked about this the other day on that wild post with the
cross choke.
The cross choke, right? It's one of those things you learn in the first month, right? Just don't throw your arm over. If you're gonna get past, get past. That's it. Make the frame, start shrimping. There you go. All right, just like Roger Gracie says, understand the phenomenon. It's what's going on right then and there. Don't throw your arm over, man. It's so easy. It really is so easy, But hey, what do I know? Oh, wait a second. I don't get von Flue choked often. I don't. I just doesn't.
No,
I
what?
I get tapped a lot, but I don't get von Flue choked.
I'll tell you this much: the von Flue choke is making the submission game great again.
It really. I mean, it's. And what gets me, if you really, we're both fight nerds, so like I took a good long look, replayed that choke a bunch. And it really wasn't sunk in early. Magana gave up. Like, I know her opponent readjusted and might have, tripoded a little bit better, right? Towards the end of it to really cinch it up and turn it maybe into kind of a face crush, which a von Flue sort of is, as well as the, a legitimate choke and whatnot. But, Magana she was lying flat on her back. She wasn't trying to move around. She had her left hand kind of on the hip, like lackadaisically maybe, trying to take some of the pressure off. But, man, he just gave up. But she got paid either way, bro. She got paid either way.
Yeah.
So, what do I know? She probably got paid what we both made in half a year combined, bro. Who knows?
Yeah.
Rising's crazy that way.
She is the queen of the protest. She just kneels, and that's how she just gets her fucking contracts everywhere she goes, apparently.
Come on.
Low-hanging fruit.
Literally, that was a triple entendre, man. You're in rare form. It's early. It's not 10 o'clock. It's not 2-minute warning after dark, but I guess we're throwing that out the window. We're just coming in.
It's 10 o'clock somewhere.
It really, hey, yeah, there you go. Maybe wherever Magana is. Who knows?
Well, isn't she in Puerto Rico?
It's dark all the time there. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. They can't tell time. There's no electricity. You bastard. How did I know? I already know where this is going, man. Jesus.
Like I said before.
Oh, no.
She went down like a power grid in Puerto Rico during a hurricane, that's for sure.
You did. You really, and that has like 6 or 7 layers to unravel. All right, it's like a little known Daniel Craig movie. All right, it's a layer cake.
Oh man. Well, let's talk about somebody who actually did have some talent. She just came in after a 12-year, 28-fight career with the UFC. Gleison Tibau leaves the company. What are your thoughts on this, brother?
He got tired of having to buy like the real big designer steroids, so I think he can buy them in bulk somewhere else and do some work, man. I mean, 28 fights though. That's in the UFC. Some people don't have that in their entire careers. In the UFC, outside the UFC. And this guy's been basically punching in for the UFC for forever and being wildly over that 155 limit on fight night. I don't know. I mean, I think kidney failure might be the cause of him leaving or doing something, because holy smokes, Tommy, remember how much bigger he usually looked than everybody else? Good grief, man. His back was like a fucking Volkswagen.
His weight cuts were legendary.
Dude, it's bad. He just, and he had that old, he looked older as a result, did he not? I truly feel like that had something, he's got a little bit of that LeBron James aesthetic going, where he doesn't look a day under 50. He goes to the early bird special at Texas Roadhouse, goes to church every Sunday, tucks in his polo, in the khaki shorts. You know, a look I rock. I'm not making fun of anybody who does any of that, but Gleason Tebow, he was maybe, close to 40, and he looked 75. Bro was looking haggard. Those weight cuts weren't helping anybody, you know, much less his opponents. No, man.
But, like, if you think back on this guy's career, like, he fought some
everybody.
of the best.
He fought everybody. There was a time there that he went on a run.
Khabib.
Yeah, and he went on a run where if one of those fights, one more fight had broken his way, I think he would have been in line for a title shot, right? Didn't he have? He strung together a bunch of wins, and I mean workmanlike fashion, that notwithstanding. But he put away some people, and he made some good people look mortal. You know, he did get got a bunch of times with a 28 fight career, brother, in the UFC, fighting everybody. It's gonna happen, but man,
they're not bringing you back times. You know what I mean?
You have to have the goods.
Squeeze.
Exactly. You got to have the goods. He was always worth a great pop in his home country, you know, and from the looks of it, he was a company man in that, you know, he had a horrendous weight cut, but he always was down to try it, which a lot of people aren't. Some people, I feel like, could take a page out of Gleason's book in terms of he kind of seems like he always stayed ready, and even when he wasn't ready, he was willing to cut off his leg to make weight. There was a couple of short notice fights for a guy that cuts this amount of weight is impressive. That he you know, did the work. That's another thing, you know, that he was ready to do that. I think that's why another reason why he got the call. But like you said, he did enough numbers, and he probably was. He doesn't strike me as the guy to, you know, A, he didn't have the leverage, but B, he doesn't strike me as the guy to be like, yo, pay me. So he probably, you know, did the work. He got paid okay, but he never caused too many.
Well, they wouldn't re-sign him after his last fight. They didn't want to re-sign him, which I get and I don't, because why wouldn't you want to keep him around if he's willing to stay around? Because Bellator's interested. They're telling him that, you know, he's got to wait a little bit, but they're interested. Rizin wants him. ACB wants him. There's another Russian organization that wants him. So there's plenty of people.
I want to see him put on a suit of armor and fight people. Like, that's where I think his next evolution for his storied career. He needs to get on a horse and joust.
If he's not going to be in the UFC anymore, maybe he can go train with Rusimov Palhares and that whole group.
Oh my God! What do you mean?
Jesus.
That whole group, by group, do you mean Husamar and like his shadow now? Because I feel like that counts for 4 people.
Dude, what the fuck?
I saw the best meme I saw was like Wario next to Husamar, and I'm like,
dude,
yo,
he looks like the Iron Sheik did.
Bro, he does. He's gonna make bitches humble. I said that to my boy James at work. I'm like, yo, because this dude loves reading me the Iron Sheik quotes at random times when I'm on the phone with clients. And so sometimes I have to cover the receiver and be like, yo, you can't say break his fucking neck. Like, I'm on the phone. Make him humble. Like, fuck him in the ass. I'm like, yo, shut up. So,
I'm telling you, man, what is going on over there?
Bro, what do you think is going on over there? I don't think that's Synthol. I
know what's going on, but what weight class is this motherfucker trying to fight at?
Super heavyweight. He's trying to get a marquee matchup with Ron Waterman and Jeff Munson at the same time.
I mean,
I'd like to see the Snowman come back and kill him.
You know,
what?
He was Jack to begin with.
Oh, he was. I mean, his nickname is Tree Stump in Portuguese, so I think that pretty much says it all. They don't throw those around, you know, willy nilly. You know, if they say you have a hard head, then I'm gonna pretty much say you're a guaranteed hard ass for Brazilian culture. That, you know what I'm saying?
Now he looks like the truck that ran over Nogueira when he was a kid.
Bro, what I don't understand, what I'm afraid of is how the hell is Craig Jones going to handle this? I'm super excited for that matchup. Like, ride the lightning and hope he gasses.
Yeah, what scares me now is how much stronger are those heel hooks going to be?
That's what I'm saying. This guy didn't let go of didn't let you go when you tapped when he was, a mere mortal.
Pounds.
And now that he's been struck by Zeus's, PED lightning bolt, and I've seen the memes with like him and the magic mushroom. This reminds me of like, in Metroid when you'd find like the super armor and you'd put it on and Samus would have like giant shoulders, which was made all weirder because then it turned out that she was a woman, but that's neither here nor there. But this guy just looks like he took a power up or, there's nothing natural. All right. His eyes are probably yellower than Big Bird's ass right now. And it's just, it's not even hiding it though, is what I'm saying. You get me? Like, and then what I love is that Craig Jones is like, whatever, man. I'm going to do it. I haven't heard anything from his camp, even remotely saying that I'm not going to take this fight or this grappling match, which is that right there makes me even more of a fan of him than I was, before his run at Abu Dhabi. Tearing shit up over there. He's just like, yeah, don't do it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think they need to start having testing at these super fights.
I agree because, I don't know. Either have testing or at least make weight classes a thing again. You see where I'm going with it? Like, if you're not going to have testing, then, okay, you have to grapple somebody who's also the size of, a Buick Skylark. Just do something, man, because I don't think Craig Jones – I think Husamar's easily now, it's an inflated, but it's like he's easily 40 to 50 pounds heavier than Craig Jones. And Craig Jones is a tall guy. But Husamar just got wide as a sequoia. It's a little tree stump joke there. But, holy smokes, bro. Good grief.
Ooh.
It's insane. It's insane. And you know what's even crazier to me is that it doesn't look like, to me at least, it doesn't look like he's super flexing that arm either. You know where I'm going with that, right? It kind of just looks like he's giving a thumbs up.
I just think he's bending his arm.
Yeah. See? Yeah, okay, good. So I'm not the only one. I'm like, yo, he's not even, trying to take us to that gun show. The guns are still in the holster. He's just giving a thumbs up. And naturally, biomechanically, your arm looks a little wild and crazy business there. If he were to flex, I think he might crack some camera lenses. He is that powerful, for God's sakes. He looks like a okay drawn superhero from a Marvel comic book. That's absurd.
He looks like a super villain from the Marvel comic book.
Well, yeah, with the mustache. The mustache is always a dead giveaway. Plus, I think he has the Majin Buu symbol, shaved into his hairline. I don't know what's going on there. So, he might have transformed and he's about to fight all of the Z fighters, in next week's episode of Dragon Ball Z GT Super Ultimate. But I don't know what's going on with that guy. But Craig Jones says he still wants to grapple with him. Australians are made of different stuff, man. I guess. It's good grief. I wouldn't. This is a long-winded way of saying that I would run from that man in a grappling competition.
They do wrestle saltwater crocodiles out there, so.
which is like a slight equivalent. He's in that range of he's earth sign mammal, reptilian type character. This is absurd.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how that's going to go.
Is that this weekend?
I really don't.
Is that this week?
You would know better than me.
I think I'm going to look it up while you queue up the who's Palares, Paul Harris. Shout out to Goldie. Oh, man.
Shout out to Goldie. Those two are not virtually identical.
There's nothing. This is just, I don't know. Just how, bro? It's just so, I searched it up, so now I'm just getting wowed again by the imagery. This is just nuts, dude. He looks like a Dominican Rambo. What?
He looks like a 4-foot Bob Sapp.
He does. A 4-foot Bob Sapp to put on the same cream that Sammy Sosa's been rocking.
Oh, whoa.
Tell me I'm wrong. Hold on. So, okay, so yeah, August 18th. Oh, man. I suddenly have something that I care about on Saturday. Boom. There we go.
Where can we find that, Omar?
Good old Flow Grappling. Always. Flow Grappling's got the hookups for everything, my man. So I'm excited.
That's right.
Yeah, dude, I'm super excited. So that one, that's something I'll actually order. I'd like to officially say right now I will spend money on this. This is good. It's that good.
Well, let's talk about something that people were ready to spend their money on. Now it doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Oh, no.
You know, right?
Yeah.
I don't think this Dustin Poirier versus Nate Diaz fight is happening. What do you think is going on?
I think they both
serious.
have. Okay, in all honesty, yeah, you know I was trying to cue up something wild, so thank you for stopping me there. If you want a serious take, the serious take I think I have on this is that they saw what happened with Khabib, and I think this fight was signed prior, or at least like in the works and talks prior to getting McGregor back in action.
Well, they announced it. They
Mm-hmm.
announced it at the press conference for 227.
Yeah.
Then proceeded to show the promo for Khabib and Conor.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple different aspects. Like it was in the works prior, and from both Dustin and Nate Diaz's perspectives, you have a situation where, you know, if neither one of them can get a crack at either one of the other two, right? So if Nate and or Dustin can't fight Conor and or Khabib, then they could be mentally and financially okay with fighting each other. I think aside from some sort of tangle with the people that are fighting for that belt and discounting a little bit El Kukui, even though I think today he just got cleared for full workouts and whatnot, and he's like, I'm celebrating getting cleared by doing crazy complexes. I'm like, bro, I know you're a super athlete, but oh my God, that knee. Anyway. So barring a fight with those two folks that are fighting for the title, makes financial sense to fight each other. However, when you then know that they're gonna fight each other, that probably pisses people off. You see what I'm saying? Like maybe both of them thought that a fight with either Conor and or Khabib was off the table. So it's like, okay, then this is the most bread you can make is fighting each other. It's great. I love that matchup. That's why, you said it was sadness and it wasn't for sadness. And I said, oh, no. I legitimately wanted to see them go down. I think stylistically, if the stars align and everybody's healthy or relatively so, that fight could be gangbusters. It reminds me of, in a weird way, of like a Takanori Gomi versus the older brother in a weird spot. But they go there. They get all their thunder stolen by this other wild marquee matchup. And knowing Dana the way we all have come to know, love, and hate the man, we can understand that maybe there was, if it's not an outright lie, Dana might have been like, I don't know what Conor's going to do, so we should match you guys up, and then you guys can then fight for the title with Khabib and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's a whole lot of false pretenses going on. Plus, neither one of them is stupid anymore, Tommy. Dustin and definitely Nate are really all about those dollars and cents at this point. Nate more so, but Dustin's starting to get hip to it, especially with stringing the wins that he's stringing together. Probably want to play for more money now that they know that, the Brinks truck that they probably backed up to get Conor back in the cage. What do you think?
I don't know, man. I think this is a fight that needs to happen just because Nate's not getting any younger. And, Poirier is trying to make a case to get a title shot. But it seems to me that the only way through that right now is with these two. Because, El Kukui's up there, but he's been out for a long time. And I don't think he should just get a shot right away. I think it was pretty dirty the way Dana did that at the press conference, which pissed off Nate. And I get it. he's doing it again. He's making the guy bigger than the company, and it's pissing some fighters off. Is it going to piss the fighters off who are on the main card that he's on? Well, no, because they're going to get more money. It's not going to piss off the other champions that are on that card because they're going to get more money. But these guys like Nate Diaz and Dustin Poirier, who their entire careers have been through the UFC, they never left. They've always fought everybody that the UFC put in front of them, and they're not putting the kind of promotion behind them that they're doing for a guy who basically fucked your entire company up. Don't you think so?
They're setting themselves up to have it happen to them again, but they're forced to play the short game. Are they not?
I mean, this dude single-handedly fucked the company.
Oh, Christ, yeah.
And if people don't believe that, then you're just naive or just so much of a super fan that you're just dumb. He fucked the entire company up by doing what he did. You win belts, and then you never return to the division.
But he makes them the most money. The graphic that I saw was he was, part of 3 of the top 5 or 6 selling pay-per-views of all time. Another one in there was Brock Lesnar for UFC 100. I think
even
Nate
Lesnar
Diaz
did it
and him.
consistently, though. Lesnar did it consistently.
But still, dude, we're talking about, I just did back of the napkin math. You know, there was 1.6 million pay-per-view buys for, I believe, Nate versus Conor 2. And if you did that at an average of $60 a pay-per-view buy, you have $117 million that it grossed. I know that doesn't all go to the UFC, but holy Jiminy Cricket. These are numbers I had in my head, but it's a different thing when you see them. Then it's a different thing when you see them. You know, I'm kind of dumb, so I need pictures. So when you see the infographic.
But my question to you is, how could these one-offs be worth it?
They have. It's not not so much that they're worth it. Let me agree with you, right? Because we're buddies, we're pals, and we respect each other. I totally agree. They're not worth it in the long run. But
isn't that how they need to, I mean.
But brother, what did we just see a couple of UFCs ago, right? A couple of numbered UFCs ago. No, it was it a numbered UFC or was it something? I think it was a combo of a really, really poor selling pay-per-view as well as, and this is maybe more Fox's doing than anybody else's, but an abysmal UFC fight night that we both said was tremendous, right? But that just didn't do numbers at all. It might have been Poirier versus Eddie. Right? Wasn't that just a tremendous card from top to bottom, and then 5 people watched it? And maybe that was Fox saying, you're going to go with ESPN Plus anyway, whatever. We're not going to promote you. But you have a company that has at least quarterly interest payments to make on that giant nut, and somebody says, hey, you can get a one-off at least out of this guy again that'll infuse your numbers with at least $100 million. Nobody's going to say no, Tom. I agree that it's not good for the sport long term. I agree that it's not good for, what we love about the art and the belts and the whole 9 yards and trying to make it a legitimate entity down the road. But name a business that wouldn't say yes to in 2 months, I can guarantee you making $100 million, and then you can figure it out later.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. But what I'm meaning, how we're saying long term. So, okay, the Conor Khabib fight happens. It makes, let's say it makes $140 million, which is amazing, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say it does that. They have an event. Let's just say 2 weeks later, they have a pay-per-view. And it barely cracks 120,000 pay-per-view buys. Was it worth it?
Still, yeah.
It's not worth it. It's not worth it to these. It's not worth it to these other fighters who are busting their ass trying to make a name for themselves, and they can't because they get no promotion. Now, I get it. Conor does his promotion, and he does it well. But the UFC does a lot for him, too.
Oh, absolutely. It's PB and J.
Like you and I talked about how that whole bus incident was definitely a black eye for the UFC, and Dana was all upset about it. Now he wants to make it a promo video for the fight. I think that's kind of dumb. Everybody knows what happened. You know what I mean? I don't think Ray Borg and Michael Chiesa appreciate having to see that as a fight promo, considering that they're the ones that came out on the fucking losing end of that. And, you know, one of the guys from the UFC, Rose Namajunas, almost didn't fight the next night. You know what I mean?
I get it.
It's dicey, dude. It really is. They're setting themselves up to fall flat on their face.
Yeah, but name all those people, just to play devil's advocate, all those people that you just named. Have they all collectively generated $100 million over the course of their career for the UFC? I would say no. Absolutely. And that's just the one. And what did I say at the top of this segment? Conor's been a part of one or three of the top five or three of the top six selling pay-per-view events, not to mention that Sideshow Bob type stuff with Money Mayweather. That was last year. I remember it because, you know, it was right around the time when I went to do a school thing in Atlanta last year, and I got to go back down this year. I remember planning a trip for school down to Atlanta and making sure that I had a place to go watch it on that Saturday. I wasn't going to miss it. You know, that I wouldn't do for any other fighter in the UFC and or any other fighter that went and did some rando something outside of the cage. That's just what he brings to the table, man. You know, and
I don't know.
I agree. It's not long term. It's messing them. It's not making it a bankable commodity for 2019 or 2020 because to take a page out of the great Tommy D's book, like what he's going to fight this one, and then what if he wins? If he loses, it's bad for the UFC. If he wins, it might even be worse. Because he loses and the cash cow is gone. That fight with Nate loses a lot of its luster. A fight with Tony doesn't make sense, you know. But if he wins, what if he wins and then goes away?
This is where I disagree with you a little bit. If he loses, I think it might be good for the UFC because maybe he goes up. Maybe they have him go up to fight at 170. He doesn't have to cut weight as much anymore.
Potentially, okay.
You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So maybe he does. So if he loses and he goes up, even if it is just a one-off, it's not a huge deal. If he's going up with a belt, you know he's not going to defend it because he hasn't defended one yet. So we're going to have the same logjam that we had before. It's almost beneficial for the UFC for him to lose.
I gotta say this though, Tommy. Think about this real quick. Like it just came to me. I think Jesus is talking to me, trying to talk to you through me. So pay attention. I guess right. He goes up with a belt and he goes to 170, and then he fights guess who at 170. You don't think that's amazing? Him versus GSP at 170, even if it's a super fight and there's no belts at 170. Well, if that cracks 2 million pay-per-view buys. Easily.
That's the only way it works then. If he fights GSP at 170, that's the only way it works. But that we don't know if that's ever going to happen.
GSP will take that in a heartbeat. You know that. Holy smokes!
I think, to be honest, I would rather see GSP do it at 155.
That'd be more impressive. You're right. Then he'd be like a champ kind of, at least in my eyes. Winning belts at three weight classes, and then he rides off into the sunset and, maybe on a dinosaur. He loves paleontology so much. But holy smokes, man. It'd be a wild situation. I'd love to see. And he'd be a GOAT for me, aside from John Jones. I think he'd crawl into that top spot at that point.
I don't know. I don't like the way the UFC did that. They definitely did Nate and Dustin dirty. You're sitting there talking up this fight, and then you cut a promo. the and it's great for for Khabib and everything like that. It's a fight that everybody wants to see. It's a fight that needs to happen. You didn't have to do it then. You didn't. There was no reason for them to have to do it right then. The fight's not till October, and I said this when we had Romero on the show. I was like, I really wish the UFC didn't start promoting this now, because we don't know what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's a wild. With who did we mention earlier? Our boy El Cucuy, right? Isn't that a situation where everything was ready to go, and then the injury bug said, "Ha ha," and then we got some wild business. I mean, God bless Ally Quinta, but
Yeah, I see, and a situation like that where, let's say, Khabib drops out, he gets, he hurts his knee, or something happens in training camp,
or the weight cut goes weird. Money. What if the weight cut goes?
I'm going to give him with the
sideways
weight,
on our boy.
Benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt with the weight with this new nutritionist. He was looking good. He had zero weight issues coming into the fights. So I'm going to, you know what I mean? And these past two fights, he never had one issue with his weight when he was fighting Barboza or Al. He had no issue. So I'm not worried about the weight cut.
I hope it works well. I'm just crossing my fingers.
It has to.
You know?
Because if it doesn't, I think that's really, really going to hurt the UFC big time now. Because it's going to be another, we got another Tony situation. They put all this promotion into it. The fans are getting hyped for it. And then if it doesn't happen, Conor could sit there and say, see, I told you that he'd never fight me. I told you he wouldn't be able to fight me. Because that's what he said all along, right?
It would put him in such a wild position. Honestly, if somehow Khabib had to back out, if he backs out of this fight with the way that Conor McGregor can spin something, Khabib may never be a credible person ever again. He might say some wild business. Like he might eat his career, without touching him.
But you know what else would make it bad if he had to pull out of the fight? Khabib's listed as the favorite. Conor's the underdog.
That's crazy to me.
Conor's the underdog.
It's only crazy to me because I think people are getting it right. But normally, with the type of hype machine that you have surrounding Conor McGregor, that wouldn't be the case. I think it's accurate. I think if gun to my head,
I think so.
I'd have to say, I think of course grappler versus striker. That's going to be, if a Nate Diaz can impose his will on the ground to an albeit rocked or maybe tired, whichever fight you want to bring up as an example. Imagine what a Khabib can do. Their wrestling is on different levels. It's on different planets. It's not even in the same solar system. Those two guys. They're both good technicians on the ground. I get that. And obviously finishing on the ground, submission-wise, is much more Mr. Diaz's specialty. But if Diaz can get him down, what do you think Khabib's going to do, man? There's no, I would almost bet the farm on Khabib, but is it going to happen? What are you feeling? Because you called the last one. You called it, spot on called it, and I hated you for it.
Khabib and Tony?
Yeah, so what is Nostradamus telling Tommy from beyond the grave here? Are you thinking it's going to happen? Please say yes.
I know I've made the jokes that something's going to happen 6 days out and Khabib's going to pull out. I do that I do that very tongue-in-cheek, but
of course.
Something tells me something is going to happen that's going to prevent this from happening in October, and I think it's because the UFC is starting to promote it already. It's too far out. It's too far out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't
It's really
promote
wild.
shit. Like, you don't promote shit for big fights, big fight cards. You don't promote shit. But because McGillicuddy's coming back, you're going to start promoting it now.
Yeah.
You know, this is where they shoot themselves in the foot. If you want to start, like, there's nothing wrong with heavy promotion a month out. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, you start the 30-day calendar and you can do one thing each day to pump it up. It's a good idea.
Look at the McGregor-Mayweather shit. What was that, a month worth of promotion before the fight actually happened?
I want to say it's, you know, as crazy as it is, it seemed like longer to me, man. I don't know why. Just because I think it probably got way too ridiculous. Remember you remember, of course, like the fight promos. I think the first one was the move, the first big press conference, and the second one was one of the highest forms of promotional self-expression I think we've ever seen. And then the other two were dog shit. So. Yeah,
but if anything, the end of June, early July, it all started with the press conferences and blah, 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 blah. Then the fight happened in August.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
it wasn't too crazy. No,
This is nuts. Yeah. They started this in July.
It is pretty crazy. But doesn't that, to me, or doesn't that for you as well, doesn't that tell you that, hey, they're really hurting?
Well, they're really hurting when they're bringing Brock Lesnar in to fight DC.
Yeah. And hoping that he's fine.
I'm sure he'll be fine. I'm sure that the fight's going to go. I think the fight's going to go off without a hitch. I think it might actually be a great fight. But you've got heavyweights waiting in the wings. I mean, Stipe's not even getting a rematch.
That is pretty disrespectful.
He's your heavyweight defense holder. He's not even getting a rematch at the belt that he just lost. Brock Lesnar's coming right in that spot. Like, I get it. Dana's like, well, Brock was getting that spot no matter what. Don't these champs have a rematch clause in their contract?
What I love is that the UFC has a right of first refusal, where if by some odd chance they let a champion fight out his contract, which they never do anymore, just to avoid all these mysteries. But if they ever did, right? And the champ says, hey, thank you, I'm leaving, right? Pose a Murillo Bustamante, basically. Then the UFC is able to legally match any offer that champion should have, just so that they can't leave with the belt. However, on the flip side of things, you have Stipe, who's historically, I think nobody's going to fight me on this, one of the best heavyweights of all time, numbers-wise, right? He doesn't get an immediate rematch after he defends the belt the most of anybody in history, Tommy. All right? Any other heavyweight in the UFC, nobody's done what he did. I think that's wild to me that it's that low of a number, but that just goes to show you how crazy heavyweight division is. And it goes to show you that, hey, Stipe was historically one of the best to ever do it. He doesn't get an immediate rematch clause. He's been on and off of social media, and I feel as though it's probably one of the most raw and real insights into the psyche of a professional athlete, because it seems as though, I don't know if you've been following his tweets and whatnot, like sometimes he tries to take the high road, he gets quiet, he doesn't do, and then sometimes he just gets really pissed off. He's got to be going through a whole mess of emotions, Tommy. Like you did in the heavyweight division with nobody, man. I mean, and we had some great, epic, historically wild fighters in that UFC heavyweight division, and he did something that nobody else was able to do. And on his way to get that belt, he fought a bunch of savages as well. Had some wars. He was tested. And he doesn't get an immediate rematch, man. That's a subject that as you can tell, like, I'm super pissed about it. I get why, you know, and have you listened to Chael Sonnen's take on it? It's like he kind of did it to himself because he's not much of a self-promotion type of guy. So he didn't have the draw power to interdict the matchup between Brock and DC. But hey, man, historically, 3 defenses, best ever.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
No, it is terrible. You know, here's Dana on UFC Unfiltered. Oh, you know, Stipe always feels like we're disrespecting him. Well, you did.
Yeah. I retweeted that today. I said, yo, because you are.
Like, are you kidding me? He's fighting Francis Ngannou. All your promotions for Ngannou. Are you fucking joking? What?
Yeah.
You think it's promotional because Stipe gets a fucking Modelo commercial?
It's so random. And I really feel as though, like, Kane went, you know, my back hurts. Stipe, you can have this endorsement. I'm so racist.
Yeah.
But it's like, come on. Oh my God.
I mean, what's next? Are we gonna see Stipe in a Safaro beer commercial with fucking Hideki Arabu or something like that? Isn't he dead? Is Arabu dead? I think he's dead.
He probably is. He was a wild fat dude. He lived a crazy life.
Oh, look, here's your promotion. Here, go in this beer commercial that makes no fucking point whatsoever.
Yeah. Dude,
there was no point to that beer commercial at all.
He's like selling IKEA in like Finland. It's like where it's not even welcome, you know.
Yeah, because I'm sure when those firefighters are done fighting a fire, they're gonna go back and kick back with an ice cold Modelo.
Do they sell Modelo in Chicago or Cleveland? Like,
I don't know.
Can we first can somebody call in and let us know if that's available on tap, like in downtown?
I don't know, but how bad are things when you lose Bud Light to Modelo?
Bro, I you know what Stipe's story in the right storyteller's hands would sound so good that it would be fake. Right? Like, it's almost like when I sit back and hear, you know, Rampage's story. Right? Let's go back there. I know I call him Bumpage. I like to fuck with you, Tommy, but like I know. But but I love the fact that he got hit by a car today. But what's crazy is if you look back at his story, it's so made for TV, made for a movie that it's fake, right? He grew up on the mean streets, like he had to fight off drug dealers and stuff, and you know he was fighting grown men when he was like 16. I think he was probably a bouncer for a couple of corner boys in his day till he got a little bit better of an opportunity. Not going to say neither here nor there, but that seems like at least like a Hallmark special, you know, or whatever the black equivalent of Hallmark is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, maybe BET. Okay. But like, you have a situation where, in the right hands, Stipe's story would be phenomenal. He's a firefighter. He's still a full-time firefighter. He's a family man.
I'm not knocking Modelo like to knock it. It's beer.
Oh yeah.
Everybody loves beer.
I get it. You know.
I mean, come on. That's your idea to promote your your
champion. That's the bone you're throwing. You know, like, not my style, but didn't we have TJ like fighting in stretchy pants? Like, was that like Van Heusen? Was he in a Van Heusen ad or something? Recently, it was him and somebody else that were like modeling Van Heusen's like stretch fit, you know, because whenever you got to throw down at the corporate boardroom meeting, you know, and you got to throw high kicks and stuff, and you want to have, you know, the Chuck Norris pants, I guess. But you know, Van Heusen, like, a little bit of a bigger name, probably a bigger check, like, and that's the smaller weights, which are historically not exactly, you know, the barn burning pay-per-view sellers, but they get better. You know, who's this guy's manager? where's his representation? I know some of it has to come from Stipe. Stipe seems to have, like, I'm above this media stuff, and that might have shot him in the foot. But, dude, you have a story that should put you... If we're able to make stars out of people like Angela Magana, or if we're able to make stars out of, you know, people who, compared to Stipe, are relatively bums, like, say, Tito Ortiz. Like, he made himself a star. But, you know, he's not a full-time firefighter. He's not a family man. Like, he's not a pillar of his community. Like, you're messing up with Stipe. You had a grand opportunity, you know? And I don't get why, just because he might seem to be a little rough around the edges and he doesn't jump up and down for joy when he has to do press. Tell me somebody who does. Even Conor McGregor, the mighty press wizard that he is, you know, it's been quietly talked about in some of the reports that I've read where he's like, you know what, for this fight camp, I've asked to have less media obligations. He's taking it seriously. Makes me happy for the fight, but it also shows you how draining them things can be. So Stipe's just not a fan of that, but you telling me you can't just say, hey, listen, get a marketing guy to sit with him and go, if you just give a little bit more effort, you can double your salary this year from last year. You can net more than you gross last year, you know, to quote a rapper. Like, come on, man.
Well, yeah, but they threw all their promotion around a guy who barely speaks the language.
I totally get that, Tommy, but what I'm trying to say is, if that's disrespectful, I get that too. But even then, if you're not like a comatose patient, marketing-wise, you go in and you can kill the dude like he did. You should be able to do like a little vampire swagger checking and take some of that off. But Stipe still managed to cock that up. I don't know how. But he killed this promotional darling. And normally, unless you're a black hole of marketability, I guess, you're able to take some of that shine off of the person that you conquered. Some people have made their names off of that. There's folks that are terrible in front of a mic or really not all about the self-promotion, but because they're able to go in and they were, you know, beating golden boys here and there, they've made a bit of a name for themselves. You know, I think we could both come up with like 2 or 3 people who did just that, you know, but Stipe managed to not do that. Why? That's what I want to get to the bottom of.
Because he lets his fighting do the talking. And what have I preached since the very first show that we ever did? That's the kind of fighter that I like. The guy whose work speaks for itself. You could say whatever the hell you want on the mic. If you don't perform that night, everything that you said is meaningless. It's meaningless. I'm sorry. It's meaningless. It doesn't mean shit. That's my thought process. It might be wrong,
what is meaningful? No, but you know what's meaningful is having the look. It's great that we talked about a guy like Stipe right after we talked about a guy like Conor, because I think they stand almost at polar opposites of one like dimension of the fight game, where you have a guy, yes, he won. He doesn't defend his belts, but he's probably bar none the biggest draw ever. And then you have a guy who does win as well, defends his belt historically in a historical amount of times, but could probably sell out Cleveland with like 2 months' notice, and that's about it. You know what I mean? Which one is chilling with tigers and you know, buying yachts and starting whiskey companies, and you know, and again, maybe it's not your thing that you're respecting this, that, and the third, but like I would like to see some sort of happy medium, because all I'd want out of this situation is for Stipe to at least fake it till he makes it slightly enough so that he's a little bit more to the left on that curve. For some reason, I have Conor on the left and Stipe on the right. Who knows? Might say something about me psychologically, but that's neither here nor there. But I'd like Stipe to kind of, He deserves it. So how the hell does he do it? Can he do it anymore? I don't think he's in that position of power with the UFC ever again.
I don't think he really was even when he was champ.
But he did it to himself, Tommy, is what I'm trying to tell you. He did it to himself because he was like, you know what, I'm going to let my fighting do the talking for me. I get that. I totally get that. But you don't think Randy Couture would have loved to have a little bit more promotional sway? He was kind of like, I'll let my fighting do the talking for me sort of thing. And he's found his voice later, I guess, with the acting and a little bit of the commentating and this, that, and the third. So I give him that. But he didn't historically make the riches that I don't think he made in his career what Conor made on his last fight. No, and that's discounting the Mayweathers. That's such an aberration. But I'm talking about the MMA fight before that. You don't think a Randy Couture with a bit better marketing engine behind him wouldn't be a wild household name? He is to us. God bless him.
You see, it's difficult because there's some people that just don't have that in them. They don't, because then it sounds too forced. And
like
people see right through that.
Opinion. Yeah, because that's how Colby comes off.
That's. I'm glad that you touched on that. So we're going to put a pin in this conversation, and let's jump onto something that not only do I think might probably not make the UFC a dime. I'm very confused at it, which is Tyron Woodley against Darren Till. Now, my question to you first is this too soon for Till?
No. Not at all. You know
why?
Why?
Do you think so?
Because I feel as though we have to get him as many fights as possible at 170 before he medically cannot make the weight and has to move up to 185, which I think is his natural weight class. So I think we need to make the most out of Darren Till, because in a year or two, I don't think he's going to physically be able to cut down to 170. I don't care what he does. Only guy I think that can make him get to 170 safely is maybe Lutrition. Shout out to Lutrition. Best in the game. But aside from that, I think we're seeing the last days. So, which is crazy that he's up for a title. If he wins the title, the hell is he going to do? Cut off his leg to make 170 every 6 to 8 weeks or 10 weeks or 12 weeks, however long? I don't think it's possible, man. And I don't think it's too soon because who the hell else are you going to put there? They should have waited for Colby. I don't know who he pissed off, Tommy. I don't understand. But
yeah, that was the other question that I had for you.
That's what that move is, Thomas. Like,
you have this guy fight for an interim belt. He wins the interim belt. Now, look, I am not a Colby Covington fan.
Me neither,
by any
for
stretch
sure.
of the imagination.
Oh, yeah.
But
I hate the guy. I do.
You have him fight for an interim belt. He wins the interim belt.
He puts a whooping on Dos Anjos. Not just wins it. Like, he makes Dos Anjos look bad in for long stretches of time. That was an impressive, because Dos Anjos looked like a world beater at 170. He looked rejuvenated. His body looked a little bit more proportional with his head. It was all pluses for our boy Rafael at that weight class. But then
you strip him. What was the point of that?
He's got enemies. That's what I'm going to tell you. There's no way else that this has an explanation. I don't know who it is. I don't know who he pissed off. I don't know what he did. But this is completely and utterly a political move. Somebody top brass at the UFC hates Colby Covington. And this is not me trying to be a Colby apologist. I hate him too. So I get it. But it makes the company look terrible. But it also reveals to me that he's got no friends. Either a matchmaker, either Dana himself, who knows. Maybe somebody took offense the same way I did at his, insipid promos with the soulless victims that he hired on Backpage, to slap some booties while he was at the pool. Remember those promos? They were god-awful. Something happened, Tommy. He pissed somebody off. Because you and I both know the same story. He wanted nasal surgery, and he's like, listen, I can't do it right now, but give me till November, and I'll be ready to rock and roll. and you tell me you couldn't do it? And you don't try to tell me that Tyron Woodley was so like, hey, if I don't fight right now, I'm gonna leave. Get out of here, Tyron. You've been out for a while. Only thing time is only gonna help you to really make sure. I'm worried that he rushed his return. It was a pretty wild surgery, and he wanted to show off. I don't know. I'm not a doctor or whatever, but that's just my gut. So more time wouldn't have killed Woodley, and nor do I think Woodley has enough money in the bank, to borrow a wrestling phrase, to be able to tell Dana, hey, listen, if you don't do it now, I'll leave, or if you don't do it now, I'll raise this thing. So I don't think it was Tyron at all. It's got to be somebody in the front offices over there at the UFC. Something happened, man. He's not a loved quantity there. All right, because this was absurd.
Do you want to know what this whole thing kind of proved to me?
What?
Honestly?
Sure, yeah, of course.
So they did the interim belt. I think that they were hoping that Dos Anjos won, so it could be Dos Anjos and Woodley. Because I don't think they wanted Woodley in there with another wrestler right now, which I don't understand why. Because this Hill fight could set up to be like the past few fights that Woodley had with Thompson. He's not going to sit there and engage the entire time with this guy, so he's going to look to hold him down. I seriously feel like if Rafael Dos Anjos won that fight, we would have been seeing Woodley versus Dos Anjos, probably for a money factor. Covington won. They stripped him as fast as possible. Or they kept it as the interim belt to sell more pay-per-view buys, and then had it in the back of their head that no matter who won, they were getting stripped, and the Till fight was going to be the fight to make. These are the two scenarios that were playing off in my head, because there's nothing else that would make sense for that. Don't you think so?
I agree. I can see where you're going with that. They're like, listen, we just want to pump the money and the buys, bring a little bit of allure, a little bit of cachet to the situation. And then they just always had kind of in the back of their heads that they were gonna cash it out. I guess. I don't know. I mean, if that's the case, Tommy, like, as begrudging as I'd have to give it, I kind of feel bad for Colby at that point, because I feel Colby probably went into it with a wrestler's mentality and saying, hey, he's got a gimmick. I respect his work ethic. You don't got to love him. You got to just respect him. I respect him a ton. He works hard. I think he's an asshole, but he puts in the time. You know what I mean? So it's like he earns what he gets. I don't think he earned this treatment from the UFC. And this is all with the huge caveat that I agree with you. Like, I hate Colby Covington, but from a fan of the fighters, and from the fighters' perspective, and also for long term with what it makes the belts look like, you've completely and forevermore destroyed any shred of credibility that the interim title had, ever. There is no. Will they do it again though, Tommy? Yes. They'll have other interim whatevers. Whenever they need a shiny bit of gold to entice the casual fan to plunk down their $65, you'll get one out of a Cracker Jack box. You'll go through a couple Dakota rings, and you'll find an interim belt at the weight class that you need. But any shred of legitimacy that it had for actual fight fans evaporated, Tom.
Oh yeah, I mean it was going downhill before, but
for sure.
After this, that just completely shot it out.
Exactly, bro. There's no.
Now I get why they did it with Tony, because he blew out the knee, and he was going to be out for a while. I get that.
For sure. I get
This guy's not going to be out that long for no surgery.
No. He's what? He's probably gotten either like a deviated septum taken care of, or he's got to get it drilled out and aligned. He's in the fight business. He's not in the game of tiddlywink business. So he probably has to, you got to go in there with some drills and straighten shit out. That's fine. That's totally okay. And every report I've read even from your favorite guy in the world, Brendan Schaub, to actual, verifiable sources here, said that it's not that he said no, he said, not right now, give me till November. That to me shows a good faith effort on, hey, yeah, I definitely want the Woodley fight, but y'all didn't tell me early enough, so I got this surgery that's going to help my quality of life, probably help me train better, which is crazy. That's nuts. Unless he got that sort of damage from the Dos Anjos fight, the fact that he's able to put that sort of conditioning and pressure on somebody with a jacked up nose is even more impressive. Maybe he got it in the Dos Anjos fight, and I'm giving him too much credit, which is rare because, fuck Colby Covington. But, he told them November, and they come back and they want to shit on him. If you have somebody that's going to be out for a year, you got to strip him. I feel it. You strip him, but you outright strip him. Maybe not even the whole interim business, right? At that point, just strip him and make a new title fight and go from there. And if the guy ever comes back, he fights for the title. Done. But this interim business, man, they did Colby dirty.
And I have nothing against Darren Till, but I don't think he's ready for this yet. I could be wrong. He could come out there and win. I don't think he's ready for it. Do we know if he could handle Woodley's wrestling?
I mean,
honestly,
what I think they're doing, and what I think even is just the big question mark is, for a round or two, maybe a round or three, because you have ring rust on the one side of things, and then Darren Till is such an enormous individual for that weight class that he'll be able to power out of a couple things. But will it be enough for long term? Will it be enough to give him a time? Because as we know, we both compete at different levels and whatnot, but every ounce of reserve that you spend on fighting a takedown, even if you do it with perfect technique, which makes it a hell of a lot easier, right? If you're doing the right things, you're setting the feet the right way, getting the hips, hand position, putting the weight there. Even with great technique, it takes a little bit out of you, right? We know that. It's physical exertion. That makes sense, Tom. But if it's not absolutely perfect technique, then it takes a little bit more out of you. Either way, every endurance point, let's kick it back to Mortal Kombat, right? Every endurance point that you spend fighting off that takedown is less of the gas, less fuel that you have for that explosive knockout that you're banking on. As the fight progresses, that's only going to be more and more out of Darren Till's reach. Who knows? Maybe ring rust is so real, that we see the Woodley that got pieced up by Nate Marquardt. Could very well happen, man. But I don't see it happening.
No, I don't. Yeah. And I think because Darren Till is a very, very shining star right now. Even though I don't think he beat Wonder Boy, I don't think he won that fight.
I think Wonder Boy won as well. We talked about that, and we're in agreement there.
I don't think he won that fight, but you won't see Wonder Boy versus Woodley ever again.
No, not for as long as either one of them have the same name. Like if they're able to change socials and wear disguises, you very well could see. But that's never happening ever again.
Yeah, no, and I think we're going to get the same kind of result with Woodley and Till that we got with Woodley and Wonder Boy. Except I don't think Darren Till is as good on the ground as Wonder Boy is to be able to get out of, that guillotine that almost popped his head like a zit.
I don't think it's. I see what you're saying, and I see what Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me three times, I'm an idiot. So I get that. I know where you're going with it. You're like, I don't know, but I don't think they're the same types of strikers. And that's to say that I think Till is more of an exploder, more of a come forward sort of guy, which will make for maybe a more exciting fight in the first couple rounds. But I think by round 3, mid of round 3 and 4 and 5, unless Woodley has completely forgotten how to be the conditioned, well-trained fighter, if ring rust is going to kill him, you're going to see him wilt. And then we'll get, Till versus Woodley, or Woodley versus Wonderboy 3, basically. But I think it'll still be bananas for the first couple rounds. That I do disagree with you on that. Just because based on styles, based on the type of fighter Till is versus Wonderboy, I think he's going to come forward a lot more.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know what I'm afraid of with, the star that Till is now. If he goes in there and gets, let's just say Woodley takes him down and just ground and pounds him and TKOs him, let's just say, in the first or second round.
Mm-hmm.
That star's gone.
Oh, and he'll never, and you know what? We've seen this in a lot of cases too, Tommy. Not even just the star, but you know what's even scarier than that? That he might not be the same fighter ever again. Because if he loses, if it's something weird happens to you, we've seen it. People get broken mentally in a fight, never come back, and they're never the same guy. And it's not even like a physical thing. It's just like, to be in the fight game, from the little bit that I know about it, you have to, somewhere in your mind, you have to think you're unbeatable. You have to in your mind. You have to, or at least be able to put away all the wild, crazy what ifs and get into that cage and say, I'm gonna beat this guy. You have to have that self-belief, right? If somebody like Till, if something happens to him, and we've seen it. You have a rising star. They go in. They finally face, the meaner junkyard dog. They're never, ever the same. For some reason, the name that's coming to mind right now is Karo Parisian. And maybe there was a bunch of other stuff outside of the cage that had more to do with it but I feel like he had one big loss, and he was never the same Karo. I don't know what happened to him. But he was a great star. They put him in. They started putting him into, some wildly deep waters. He ran into a brick wall. He lost, and then it was just, I don't know. I think there was painkillers involved. Maybe it was some craziness. Shout out to Karo. I don't mean to put your dirty laundry out on Front Street, but he was never the same goddamn fighter. Never. He never came back and was the high amplitude wild man that we loved. No-gi judo was suddenly viable. Haven't seen no-gi judo like that since, till Travis Stevens afterwards, But I don't want that to happen. Even if he loses his luster, it's something you can get back if you still have that belief in yourself. That, hey, I am still this badass motherfucker. I can get out there and put in the work and get back there and learn. But if Woodley, by some weird fight voodoo, gets in his head and stamps that self-belief out, it could be completely traumatic. You could then, we might be talking about Darren Till's career before Woodley and after. And that's scary. Because I think he has a bright future. You do too, I believe.
Yeah, I do. That's why I think this might be too soon. It's like what they did to Ngannou. Look what happened to him when you were talking about how it changes a fighter. You saw him in that Derek Lewis fight.
Great. He's very, very recent. I don't know why I don't know why I went back to Karo goddamn Parisian. Who knows? But you're absolutely right. Ngannou, and I will go out on a limb, and I don't think it's a very far limb. I think it's very sturdy, and that's good because I'm a big guy. He's never gonna be the boogeyman that he was, nor will he ever achieve what he could have achieved had he had maybe one or two more fights before being rushed to the title. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Even without, because, okay, had he fought Derek Lewis before Stipe, I think he knocks Derek Lewis out.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, and you said that the Black Beast was going to beat him.
Yeah, and because, I was factoring in, I think something, you dance with that devil and that self-doubt. You look into that abyss, and you have to have the ironclad mentality that you're the baddest thing that this abyss has seen, and that it's the darkness checks under its bed for you. Right? Then you can get into a cage and try to do something against another thinking, essentially apex predator in this crazy ecosystem called, the flat earth, I guess, right? But if you don't have that foundationally. You can't lie to yourself. You can't fake that. You can fake it externally, but in your mind, before you go to sleep, or when you wake up and it's 4 a.m. and it's still dark outside and it's quiet, right? You know that you're a coward. Or at least you know that you're not that dude that you thought you were before that encounter. And that saps you of that ineffable intangible that you need to go into a confrontation like that and be the aggressor and be the hunter and be the demon that's trying to kill somebody else in there. So I think Stipe took that away from Ngannou, and we got that horrendous fight that we did. But had it been before that, I think Ngannou goes in there, and in his mind, he's playing the highlight reel of what he did to poor Alistair Overeem, and he puts hands on him, and he kills him. And I think you're spot on. This could happen to Till after what Woodley does to him. You know what was impressive? That Woodley Wonderboy 1 happened, and yes, we got a really, really boring fight after that, but Wonderboy still got back on the horse. I'll give him that. I'll give him that at least. As much as I hated that second fight, you know what I'm saying? It was abysmal. But he at least got back in there. Some people wouldn't have after that one, and I don't know. It's a dangerous fight for Till, for his career, as well, his livelihood, his mentality. It's a situation.
Yeah, to me, it just seems a little too rushed. I mean, that's what the UFC does, but it just seems a little too rushed.
Mm-hmm.
He's had some notable wins, but with that fight against Wonderboy, I'd be like, yeah, we want to see you in there one more time. We want to see you in there one more time against somebody else. Give him, hell, you could have even given him Colby.
Yeah.
If you want to go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Give him Colby.
And yeah,
or
and just
Usman.
something. I mean, it would answer all sorts of questions. If Darren Till is able to go in and handle somebody like Usman, I'm firmly on the Darren Till hype train at that point and going, he's taking it straight to Liverpool station there. All right, he's going to be absolute force in the division. Who knows, though? This is a man who has come out and said some pretty wild things with regards to, I don't give a shit about my family, basically. I'm a terrible father. I just got to focus. That's all I want to do. If that's the guy he is, and he gives it his all, he might be okay with whatever the outcome is. It might devastate him, but it's not going to gut him like we had recently with Ngannou. Ngannou's career is irrevocably changed after that Stipe Miocic fight. It's never going to be on the trajectory that it ever was. And that's I think we're both in agreement where that's above and beyond like any technical flaws. We know he can't wrestle worth a shit for Ngannou. We've seen that. But it's like he just lost that kill switch in his mind that you need when you're in the fight business. And I don't care. He could wrestle till, he goes out for the Olympic team of some obscure nation, but he makes it because he's just good enough to qualify in a weak conference. And he still won't be what he was, which is wild, Till, I don't know. Till.
Yeah, like I said, I think what they should have did was Colby versus Woodley and Till versus Usman. See what he does against a wrestler.
Yeah.
Because this is how they shot themselves in the foot, like we said, with Ngannou. If Woodley finds a way to hold him down and ground and pound him, let's say he does it for 5 rounds, is that an exciting fight? I mean, to you and I, we enjoy seeing something like that. But to the masses who already don't like Woodley because they say, oh, well, he just, I don't know where they get this from, that he just lays on people all the time. I mean, he did it in the Till fight, and then he stayed away from Damian Maia, because who's going to want to go on the ground with Damian Maia?
Not a soul.
No.
Maybe.
So,
yeah, exactly.
If you go back to Woodley's other fights, his fight with Jake Shields, the spinning back fist. You know what I mean? That was a great fight.
That's absolutely for sure, but look at again going back to our boy Ngannou, right? Just as a parallel, he fights Curtis Blades again now. Blades kills.
Oh, Dunsky.
Blades destroys, chops through him. And again, this is taking, as much as you can, this is taking away any technical development, and maybe that's too big of a caveat for some of our listeners. Maybe it is. You know what? Tough. But, he faced them before when he had that belief in himself and when he was on that trajectory. And he did what he did to Curtis, friend of the show. Shout out to Curtis, come back. Get on here. Let's hype that next fight. Let's get you that title fight down the road. But it's just, I think a little more seasoning, a little more development might have done everybody some good. Plus, it's exciting fights, man. It's like, okay, instead of throwing him into this situation now, I'm not gonna lie to you. When I first heard it announced, I was a little surprised.
I was dumbfounded.
Yeah, okay, because I had heard hey, okay, we're that there was a little bit of fly in the ointment with the Colby versus Woodley, right? So I'm like, oh, maybe they'll iron it out. But then I started going and thinking, well, what if they don't iron it out? Who would I think is going to go? I had 2 or 3 names before I thought of Till. And who did the UFC go to? Yeah, why not? Darren Till, come on up. They just want to fill pay-per-views in London, I guess. I don't know, man. Is that what they're trying to do here? Bisping retires and any new face of UK MMA?
Well, apparently I think the pay-per-views are free over there until this new deal gets struck.
So are they just setting them up to maybe make them finally some money?
Yeah, I don't
have to pay.
I don't know, man, but I just think it's too soon. I think it's too soon. I mean, I really hope it doesn't go the way that I think it's going to, where he's just going to, not lay on him, but ground and pound him for 5 rounds.
And nobody wins. We lose as fans. Both of them lose as fighters because Woodley doesn't gain a fucking thing. It's impressive still because he's able to handle a monstrous welterweight coming off of a big injury. He's able to handle a monstrous heavyweight, probably heavyweight, but a monstrous welterweight. Great for him. He gains a little, but then if he does it in boring fashion, what's happened, right? Till doesn't gain anything unless he shocks the world and wins, But hey, what do I know, man?
It was it's like the Emil Mech and Usman fight.
Yeah.
There's another one.
Mech could have done. Mech could be like a dark horse still, with the right matchups and letting him develop. Because I think Mech, from fight to fight, still comes out and he shows wrinkles to his game. He's not like old dog, new trick type guy yet. He's marketable. He has a look. I think he could have been somebody that, but what might have been one of the worst losses from this whole merger or from this whole acquisition? Joe Silva retired. I feel like the matchmaking has gone to absolute dog shit since he's left the company.
I've said this before to some of the other writers at Fightbook. I think the UFC has matchmakers in name, but I think it's WME that's pushing the button on who's getting what, and Dana White. I don't think the matchmakers are making these fights.
And I think it's in that order.
They don't make sense.
I think it's WME and then Dana maybe rubber stamps what WME really, really says. If there's ever a conflict, WME wins the conversation. I agree there 100%. I think you're spot on because it seems as though corporate suits are making these matchups, and that's what's driving the company, and I think it's driving it into the ground.
Yeah,
You know?
it's just, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense at all. This fight does not make sense. You know, and if you're a Darren Till fan, yeah, you're loving it because he's getting a shot at the belt. But it doesn't make
for
any
sure.
sense. Not off that last performance. It doesn't make any sense. None.
It doesn't make any sense, and it's like, you know, you could get one rushed title fight, or you could get 3 or 4 very intriguing matchups, 1 or 2 of which could be a title fight, but all 4 of which would be tremendous additions to decent cards. The math is almost like, because the one like wild outlier that would throw all this equation out the window would be if one of the people that we're talking about in this equation was a Conor McGregor. That calculus goes out the window. It's almost like when at different, you know, sizes of particles, different laws of physics apply, right? You know, you get so small that then you got to switch over to quantum physics. That's so, but barring that, and with the actors that we're talking about, you always go for the 4 or 5 fights that you could make by intermixing this and letting it simmer a little bit versus just going for the quick cash-in, because I don't think it's going to be that much of a cash-in to begin with. Is this fight that big of a draw anyway?
No.
No, to you and me it is.
That's what I mean.
We're both like, But yeah, doesn't make it money.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
It could end up being
like,
a stinker. Yeah, you're absolutely right, bro. You're absolutely right.
It's not going to make any. I mean, look, I hope it does, because I think at this point Woodley deserves to get paid.
I agree. He made a fan of me from Joe Rogan. He was on Joe, and he was tremendous. Yep. I'll admit that I kind of hated him prior, but I'm like, you know what? Nah, man. Okay, I'll ride with Woodley.
I mean, he's not a bad guy.
No,
he's not. You know what I mean? He's defended his belts multiple times. I mean, he defended his belt 4 times in 1 year. Name me, you know what I mean? Name me another champ that does that besides, you know, Demetrius Johnson.
Exactly.
Former champ.
No, I agree.
You know, so I don't know. I think it's too soon, but you know, we'll see how this all plays out. So, buddy, before we're going to end the show on one more topic. It's time to bring back the lecture with the professor. Talk a little bare knuckle boxing. We never really had the chance to talk about bare knuckle boxing here, and our buddy Tyler King is signed with bare knuckle boxing. We'll talk about who the opponent that they're trying to set him up with, but I want you to go on your lecture with the professor rant on what you think about bare knuckle boxing. Take it away.
Well, I love it, but I'm afraid of it for the sport of MMA. And I think that there's always going to be an intermingling between the two. There's going to be a crossover. We're starting to see that. The bare knuckle boxing league has started to really court people from the MMA ranks. I think it's a natural fit. However, optically, I think it's one of the scariest things that could potentially happen to MMA. I want to see everybody get paid. You and I both know that you take the gloves off and it's much more of a real fight, and it's actually potentially like a safer fight overall. You get cut up more, but you know you're getting a lot less situations where you're getting TBIs, a lot less CTE. You know your brain's not getting rattled nearly as much with no gloves on, but you're having to go against 100 to 150 to 200 years of Marquis of Queensberry rules, and getting that mental image of the minute you take a glove off, you're going Tong Po style, kickboxer. You know, Jean-Claude Van Damme is fighting somebody, you know, for the honor of his Cambodian love interest here. It's very, very difficult to divorce that popular culture conception as well as just, you know, the common sense approach to fighting where you take the glove off, then it's less safe. It's not. It's almost been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. Like, you're going to get a lot more soft tissue damage, but you're going to get a lot less rattling of that sweet bag of brain matter, you know, against the inner walls of your skull. That being said, I'm a fan of bare knuckle boxing. I like what it brings to the table. I think it takes a lot more skill when you're standing up in terms of what you're going to do. You have to be a lot more accurate. You can't just fire and be crazy, because if you hit the wrong part of the head and you don't have a glove on, you're going to break the shit out of your hand. And I think that it takes away this false sense of invincibility that some fighters can get when you not only wrap your hand tight, which they do in bare knuckle boxing. I mean, they at least do that for sure. But when you wrap your hand tight and then put it into even an MMA glove, you've hit stuff with an MMA glove, Tommy. I've hit stuff with an MMA glove. We've also, probably hit stuff without any gloves on at all. Which one hurts less? It's obviously when you have that big padding. The padding is there to protect your hands. I'm excited to see where it goes, but I'm very, very nervous about association between the two sports. Maybe it's because I'm a holdover from, the Senator John McCain days, where unjustly it was compared to human cockfighting, and everybody said, all the crazy stuff that they did with that. But you and I both know, Tommy, like we've sat down with new fans to MMA, and when you show them the old UFCs, and there's no gloves on, I've gotten the comments, I know you have too, be like, yo, that's wild, that's hardcore, they don't even have gloves, man, whoa. And I fear what bringing back those images is going to do to the sport, regardless of the fact that we know that it's actually safer. And, not for nothing, regardless of, I think it takes more skill. I really do. You have to be more accurate. You have to place your punches. You also, your guard, when you're standing up, has to be spot on. Your defense has to be wild to really be able to block a bare knuckle punch. Because a punch without gloves on can it can sneak into a bunch of nooks and crannies that a punch or a fist with a glove on could not get through. You take the glove off, you can get sneaky. You can get around regular guards fairly easily. You can slip uppercuts through little gaps between elbows that would otherwise be completely like, hey, I'm a stone wall. No, bro. We saw that, and you feel the change when you go from regular boxing gloves to MMA gloves. You take the MMA gloves off, man, it might not seem like a big change, but, some things are going to be getting through a lot more. And, with the concussive force that you can generate, even with a fist, if you're able to sneak things in and be accurate with it, two things you're going to need to be able to do with bare knuckle boxing, you're going to get hurt. Things are going to happen. So I'm excited to see. I think it's a skillful display. It's very bloody, so I think there's that visceral appeal. And maybe they might be banking on that more. We're both fight nerds, Tommy, so I'm more of it's cool to see what they do with the skill type thing. But, they're definitely going to market it for the bloody aspect of it. I'm excited that Tyler King is going to be able to get an opportunity to make more money. Anything that puts more money in Tyler King's pocket, I'm 100% a big fan of. He's a big friend of the show and funny bastard. So even though he's a Patriots fan, he can't be all perfect. But I'm nervous about it as a concept, even as much as I'm excited about it as a fan. So that's my rant.
Yeah, and I mean everything that you said, I feel the exact same way. I remember the first event that they had, like half the card was on medical suspensions for broken hands and, cuts to the face and stuff like that. So the broken hands is the one thing that concerns me, because you can only break your hands so many times. Like, Floyd Mayweather's breaking his hands in pillows.
Yeah.
And you're going to break your hand this way.
He altered his fight style as a result of it. Like he's a different fighter from first part of his career to now. For sure. Because he has brittle hands now.
Yeah, that's the thing that scares me, because it's like how much of a career is someone actually going to have doing the bare knuckle boxing? Like, you're not going to have like a 10-year, 15-year career against real professional athletes. I'm not talking about like, you know, the bare knuckle boxing that you see in the backyards of what was that documentary in Ireland? You know, the bare knuckle boxers.
I'm not gonna make fun of wild gypsy bare knuckle boxers because they're tougher than I am, but I know what you're talking about.
No, I'm not making fun of it. I'm just saying, like, you're not fighting, you know, those guys. You're fighting.
No, yeah.
You know,
exactly. You're fighting trained fighters,
professionals who, you know, train and fight for a living.
Like,
you know, they don't work
like
in the
athletes.
Mill. Yeah, they don't work in the mill and then kick ass on the weekend.
I mean, they're tough guys.
It's interesting.
I agree.
And heavyweights.
Yo.
Good God.
I think, yeah, that's a recipe for a short night. It's going to be good fight, good night, like, what was it, that claymation celebrity death match? Dude,
yes.
It's just going to be quick, bro. It's going to be quick.
Yeah. It's more combat sports. And yes, we're very excited for more combat sports. You know, we've seen, you know, Beck Rawlings made her appearance there. Chris Lytle is about to. Chris Levin, you mentioned it.
Phil
in
Baroni.
Pre-show. Yeah, which, whatever.
Hey, man, Phil Baroni's got that big dick energy, all right? So he's doing big things out there, leaking dick pics and apparently slinging bare knuckles, man. I don't know. He's just wilding out. I think the testosterone is finally catching up to him. All those doses finally getting to him.
For guys like Lytle and Lieben, like, it almost scares me for them to do this.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
It's not right, but hey, you know.
Yeah. And hey, I don't begrudge the league, you know, because look, I'm a carnivore.
Yeah.
Carnivore.
That's the best way to say it. It's
you
the
know,
best way to say it. Like,
I'll
eat meat, man. Yeah.
Yeah. I watch almost any kind of fighting. I don't discriminate at all. And I think it's great that it's you know, another outlet for fighters. I mean, the money's got to be there if these guys are doing it.
Tyler doesn't fight for chump change. Like, Tyler knows what he's about. So I feel as though, you know, and Beck is the same way. Beck doesn't strike me as somebody who would take scraps. You know what I mean? She's out there to get what she's worth. She fights for what she wants to achieve and get paid for. She's got the kid, you know. She's out there doing her thing. So if the money wasn't right, she would not be involved. And I think, you know, Phil Baroni, there's other things that he could be doing. They're probably paying him a pretty good grip of cash. Same with Lieben. He's out there. He's been a successful coach. So I'm glad everybody's getting paid.
The money has to be good to get those two out of retirement. Lytle's been retired for, what, how many years now? 7, 8 years, 9 years?
He ran for Congress. Like, he's got a whole other life that he's invested in. Plus, he has 700 children. I think he's also a volunteer firefighter. Yeah, I think, you know, he's that dude in the Midwest, and, you know, salt of the earth, and God bless him. So I think to get, like you said, to get him out of retirement, it would take a pretty penny, you know. So
yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, and well, anybody who follows Tyler on social media, you know who he's fighting. Sean Merriman signed with Bare Knuckle Boxing, and Bare Knuckle Boxing approached Tyler for that fight. So Sean Merriman, if you're listening, and I'm sure you are, sign the contract.
Let's get it done.
Sign the contract. Yeah, don't be scared, homie.
Yeah, nice. But it'd be great, man.
Yeah, but wait, didn't Merriman play for the Patriots?
He might have. So I don't know. Is he fighting a childhood hero? Is Tyler going to be fighting one of his former?
No, I say no. Don't get it twisted. Tyler wants to punch a hole in his face.
There we go. That's what I
Tyler
wanted to
put
hear.
a hole in his face.
There
because this is another story of, hey, I'm a big name. I think I could do this. And I always love to see that get shot down.
Yeah, for real.
I always love seeing that get shot down. CM Punk.
I mean, money, and you know what? And not for nothing, Sean Merriman, like, money's got to be right there too. To be signing that guy, because he's got a couple other like different pies that he's got his hands in that are making him some cash. So it's got to be the price is right here to be glib, So I'm excited there.
How long do you think it takes before Fight Pass picks up bare knuckle boxing?
I want to say if they play their cards right, Merriman signs, and they let Tyler be Tyler, it'll be after this event. I'm going that crazy. Tyler King, if you don't already know and you're in the fight business, your head's up your ass, you've been living under a rock, Tyler brings the heat when it comes to promotion. And he's a game fighter. He has very real skills. Standing up as well as on the ground. Trains with a great team. But, man, if there's one thing that I got to say, hey, listen, look at the values. He's such a promoter's dream. He does the podcast circuit. He came to us when we were a lot smaller, jumped on. We got his hookup through Jency and the Fighter Writer and the fans, right? Like, he's on social media. He's able to sell fights. He pumps up stuff. He almost started an international incident promoting his last fight against an Iranian fighter.
Oh, boy.
For Ryzen. Right? Like, he's the real deal. This is the guy that you want in your promotion, associated with your brand, pushing the brand out. The dude's a savant for self-promotion. He absolutely is. So, like, without any reservation, I can say that, every penny that you pay this man, you're going to be getting it back 2 and 3 times, which is what you want, man, if you're trying to get something off the ground. So you let Tyler be Tyler, get Sean to sign and give them enough time to cultivate something. Both of them are articulate and erudite enough that they're going to build up this fight tremendously. I think, could be right after this event. It does that much with that many waves. Because you have the crossover appeal of a Merriman, and then you have, like, the showman extraordinaire from the Tyler King, man. Like, I went on a little bit of a Dick Flu solo on Tyler King, but I really do believe that this guy knows how to promote fights. And it's what you want. And he's not a slouch. Like, you want both. We went on a tangent a little bit with Stipe. Like, if Stipe had half of Tyler King's ability and, like, wit with the media, right, and with promoting fights, Stipe Miocic would be on a fucking Wheaties box. I have no doubt, right?
Yeah.
But, he's not that self-aware. Tyler King is eminently self-aware. And I think that makes him a really good contribution to any promotion that he's involved in.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. I mean, I think he said that, that fight for Ryzen was one of their highest selling pay-per-views because of the promotion that he put behind it with, oh God, what the hell was that guy's name? Yeah, no, not Masood. He didn't fight Masood.
No, he didn't fight Masood. He fought Masood's homeboy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
But
how can I forget this guy's name?
This is wild business right now. Jesus Christ, man, I'm fucking up too. I'm sorry. Jesus. I'm gonna forget that on the show.
It was Ryzen's highest paid pay-per-view in the Saitama Super Arena. So I mean, the guy, like you said, the guy knows his promotion, and Fight Pass already picked up the karate league that Boss Rutan is involved in.
That's crazy too.
So I don't think it's going to be very long before Fight Pass picks that up, and I think that would be very smart, bare knuckle boxing, to jump on there because you're going to get more eyeballs. People already like it. You've already got former UFC fighters on there. It makes sense and it could make sense. CENCS.
Yeah. It was Amir Ali Akbari, by the way. That's where he fought.
That's it.
Shout out to Amir. My apologies, sir.
Yeah.
Great guy.
I mean, I don't know, man. I wasn't too sure about it when it first came out. I'm still on the fence with it. I did enjoy watching it. But just when you see these fighters afterwards, like, Jesus.
Yeah.
All bashed up and banged up, and their hands are broken. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how long of a career these guys can have, but for as long as they have it, I will 100% be a fan.
I'm with it too, man. I love it. It's good. It's fun.
Well, hey, buddy, before we close out this show, one more piece of business I bet you didn't know. Donald Cowboy Cerrone is opening his own amateur fight series.
Oh, Jesus Christ. What? Really?
Yep.
You're absolutely right. I didn't know that. Like, what? So he's doing it, local in Colorado?
I believe it's either going to be in Colorado or it's going to be in Albuquerque.
Is he? I feel like he should just put cameras at the ranch, and I think it'd be fine. I would watch. I would probably pay like a couple dollars an episode to see whatever that comes up with.
Yeah, Brian Hamper, who also is our buddy Sean Teed's manager, just posted it. So any of you fighters out there on the West Coast, if you're an amateur, fill out that application for Donald Cerrone's fight series, because that's something I could see picked up on Fight Pass.
Picked up on Fight Pass, and I think you're going to, if you could be coached or mentored by anybody in the fight game, you could really go a lot. You could do a lot worse. You could go in many different wrong directions than Donald Cerrone. What do you think?
No, for sure. But I mean, look. I've said this before. I think these amateur fighters need to be on like a Fight Pass. There should be, amateur fights on streaming services more regular, so you could get to know some of these fighters, get them a little bit of exposure. I've always said that about Lou Negley's Ring of Combat, and I know CFFC has an amateur league. They should have these guys on a streaming service. People should be able to see who they are, know who they are before they become professional athletes. So you could say, I was watching this guy win. Because there's amateur fights that happen all over the country. I know you can't have a streaming service for them all, but something like Donald Cerrone, because he's still a contracted fighter for the UFC, that could be something big. That could be a big trendsetter.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll see, man. Well, hey, listen, we're going to get ready to wrap everything up now. This was an interesting show. There wasn't really much news going on in MMA this week, so it was nice to just kind of shoot the shit with you and pick apart some topics. But shout out to our sponsors, 80K Fightwear, Black Hole Jiu-Jitsu, Madama Jiu-Jitsu, 2 Minute Warning Sports 360, and our friends over there at Fightbook MMA. We will be back next Monday night. We're going to try and get a guest on. Omar, I believe you will not be here next week?
Let me see. I believe, what is next week? Hold on. Give me 2 shakes of a rabbit's tail. Bang, bang, bang. No, actually, next week I will be here.
Okay.
Following week and the week after. So the last week of August and Labor Day weekend. I'll be out. I'm gonna actually be moving down to the great South. So
you're moving.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know. I know what that means.
Yeah.
I know what that means. Congratulations.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, the 20th I'll be good to go, but the 27th and the 3rd I'll have to take a quick hiatus.
All right. Well, we're going to get ourselves a guest for next week. So,
Beautiful.
buddy, this was a lot of fun. Happy to have you back. Kareem, we missed you this week, but tune in next Monday night, 9 o'clock. We will have a guest. Ladies and gentlemen, we are Pride Rules Podcast. Good night.